The numbers giving Kamala Harris nightmares, and how she could turn it around. The smart money says the 2024 U.S. presidential election hinges on the financial concerns of swing voters in battleground states. And sooner or later, when Donald Trump takes a temporary break from his ridiculous grievances, he may succeed in focusing the election debate in this direction. So how would Harris answer the lethal question that Ronald Reagan posed to viewers during the final presidential debate with President Jimmy Carter in 1980? Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Back then, the electorate answered no and put Reagan in power. It's not really a fair question, least of all in 2024 after the American economy, like all other major economies, has spent the previous 3 years recovering from the inflation shock caused by the Ukraine war and the COVID pandemic. The latter event, exacerbated by Trump's ineptitude, saw the Biden administration hand out billions in pandemic relief. This largesse was not sustainable for long. It's been sorely missed by working and middle-class families. The myth of Trump's financial acumen still persists in the minds of many Americans, despite his list of failed businesses and a record in government of tax cuts for the super-rich that caused the national debt to spiral by $7.08 trillion, £5.9 Economic growth under Trump was nothing special. If the 2020 pandemic is excluded, growth after inflation averaged 2.67% under Trump, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. So far, under Joe Biden, annual growth is averaging 3.4%. But people have short memories, and here are some of the numbers giving Kamala Harris nightmares. Asterisk 9, the percentage at which inflation peaked in 2023, and the highest in 4 decades. Asterisk 34, the percentage of Americans who say they live paycheck to paycheck. Asterisk 69, the preliminary consumer confidence reading for September in the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, CSI. Successful presidential candidates typically score 90% or more. News this month suggests Harris is closing the gap on Trump regarding the public's confidence in her economic competence, and that she is managing to distance herself from the blame attached to Biden's handling of the country's finances. But even in this survey, more respondents thought they would be better off financially if Trump were re-elected, with 40% saying they would either be somewhat or much better off under his presidency compared with 35% who thought they would be better off under Harris. The fact is many Americans were still no better off than they were in the last pre-pandemic year, 2019, a fact highlighted last week by the United States Census Bureau. Inflation-adjusted household income in 2023 stands at $80,610, £61,236, a little lower than its 2019 level of $81,210, £61,692. The gap is worse, though, if you look at real income after taxes and tax credits, which better reflects what households were actually able to spend. Incomes actually increased during COVID shutdowns, thanks to government handouts. But when these ended, real income after taxes dropped significantly. This is one of the biggest reasons that Democrats have struggled to sell Americans on the merits of President Joe Biden's economic stewardship, a Washington Post editorial noted last week. Hence, Harris should be honest about that decline, while also explaining why the 2020 and 2021 figures weren't sustainable, and why there are still lots of reasons to think the economy is strong and capable of getting stronger. Major financial news this week might give Harris the opportunity to tackle the subject head-on and set the agenda. The Federal Reserve is expected to finally announce a cut in interest rates today, with Wall Street betting on a significant half-point cut. This is Harris's chance to tell voters that the economy has turned a corner. An interest rate cut will lower mortgage costs for homeowners. The rate cut is made possible by a slowing economy, but on the plus side, inflation has now fallen to 2.5%. So far, her economic promises have centered on tax policy. She has talked about expanding the child tax credit, a $6,000, £4,558 bonus tax credit for newborns, a $25,000, £18,991, first-time homebuyer tax credit, and end to taxes on waiters' tips. In contrast to Trump, Harris has pledged to raise corporate tax from 21% to 28%. Her opponent wants to lower it to 15%. Harris doesn't have any great economic ideas, and her grasp of the subject has left most pundits unimpressed. And some experts are puzzled over Trump's failure to exploit her vulnerabilities on the economy.